With a brutal car accident. It was a head-on collision with a fully loaded semi-truck. I was on my way up north, crossing a few mountain passes, and just got caught in a very, very severe storm. I'm an ex-military commando. I've been in many different types of weather situations, and what happened in this particular occasion was that my vehicle hit a patch of black ice, lost traction, and I spun so fast that the car just, instead of ending up on the sidelines, hit the concrete median, launched into the air, flipped upside down, landed on the roof in the opposite lane, and head-on collision with a semi-truck, me upside down in the
Welcome to Fit That House. I'm your host, mohammed.asfar. Today we're diving into a story of resilience, transformation, and purpose. My guest, Erez, a former elite commando turned serial entrepreneur, built multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses in real estate and other verticals while overcoming extreme personal adversity, and today helping others navigate life and business's toughest challenges. After surviving 3 near-death experiences, Erez developed his Victory Path 360 methodology to help individuals and businesses thrive in the face of adversity. If you're looking to build resilience, overcome obstacles, and find purpose in life's challenges, this episode's for you. How does a dad survive 3 near-death experiences and turn them into a mission to help others build resilience? Let's hear from Erez himself. Taking care of your health is non-negotiable, especially as a dad on the go. That's why I trust BioSteel for clean hydration without the sugar crash. Use code MNYY1417 at checkout for up to 25% off. Let's prioritize health so we can be there for the ones we love. Erez, welcome to Fit That Hustle. Thank you for joining us today. You've survived 3 near-death experiences, a car accident, an amputation, and a heart attack. How did these experiences shape your approach to resilience and purpose?
Well, first of all, good to be here. And that's always a heavy jump right into those biggest things that have happened. But I have to say, in general, when we confront something that is life-changing, and everybody has their own journey in life and experience different things, what I have found was really what you can find throughout the journey of really understanding what is going on and how you show up and how you actually confront that challenge. So for myself, unfortunately or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, I have encountered near death 3 times. Very, very, we have a very close relationship, and those events have really formed the capability to transform. And I think if there's one big message that I can share with your audience today is that my personal belief is that in every adversity, in every challenge, and you don't need to compare yours to mine. I mean, near-death experiences, I don't wish them to my worst enemies, but it doesn't matter the capacity or the intensity, the ability to see those situations as an invitation to something that is calling you to either do things differently or to change completely is huge. And when you're in that mind and can see that is a process, now real transformation can begin.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, everyone's journey is different. Like, I've gone through challenges, but not anything close to what you've been through, and they were very stressful, like, even though I try to manage it in my way, but something that's what you've been through is like totally way out there. So like, that's why like sometimes you have to say like, you're going through a challenge, you never know what anyone else is going through. So that's why you should be thankful for that challenge that you're going through, because it's just something temporary. But what you've been through, man, I'm kudos to you, man. Like that. For you surviving all that.
And it has been a very, very tough journey. I'll just share a little bit the story so people can understand. I mean, it really started with a brutal car accident.
Okay.
It was a head-on collision with a fully loaded semi-truck. I live in Canada, in British Columbia, and our winters here are not the typical Canadian winter people envision. It's like minus 40, and it's so all the time. Yeah. Vancouver is on the Pacific Ocean. We have a bit of a milder weather here, but we have high mountains. And I was on my way up north, crossing a few mountain passes, and just got caught in a very, very severe storm. And it's not that I haven't been in these conditions before. I'm an ex-military commando. I have been in many different types of weather situations. And what happened in this particular occasion was that my vehicle hit a patch of black ice, which is basically ice that is formed under fresh snow. So you can't really see it. This is why It's called black ice. The car lost traction and I spun so fast that the car just, instead of ending up on the sidelines, hit the concrete median, launched into the air, flipped upside down, landed on the roof in the opposite lane, and head-on collision with a semi-truck, me upside down in the car. It was a horrific accident in the middle of a snowstorm, so it took hours for the rescue teams to arrive. And I was conscious throughout the whole thing. Maybe I lost consciousness for a few minutes during the hit, but the recovery from there was brutal. I was on a induced coma for 8 days, 50-50 chance, day in, day out, but thank God I'm a little bit of a larger guy and a little bit stronger. The injuries were horrific. Broke my sternum in 2 places, all my ribs, collapsed lungs, shattered my leg into 17 pieces. So very difficult injuries. But to make the long story short, it took me about 3 months to stabilize and then really realize that the worst injury that was not life-threatening but became my Achilles heel was my ankle, my right ankle. It never healed and I was disabled because of it. I was in tremendous pain, I couldn't sleep, I was on heavy medication that just messed up my entire life, and I was in a wheelchair, on crutches, and couldn't see myself continue living that way. Was very depressed, was in the worst place ever for myself as a father, as a husband, as a provider. I just couldn't do anything, was helpless. And that really pushed me.
Yeah, you go through challenges and like a challenge like that and what you've done for yourself, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit more right now. And I think that that's what built you to who you are today. That's my belief, and that's what made you stronger. So what was the turning point that made you decide to leave real estate industry and focus on resilience coaching?
So, after this event, this car accident actually happened when I was on my way to look at a real estate deal, and really realizing during my recovery that for me, the realization that it is true, we only have a limited time on this planet, and if we have the ability to choose what it is we do during this limited time, then we might as well act on it versus allow life just to take over and all of a sudden we're just doing life, but we're not really participating fully in the process. And at that time, I started to really understand how stressful and challenging the industry I was working in was, and my demands of me being in real estate. I used to travel a lot to look at different opportunities, and I traveled all over North America, and the accident really stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't travel anymore. I had to look at things very differently. And because real estate was the only industry I had a lot of experience in, at that time I couldn't even see myself doing something else.
Yeah.
But what started to happen, because I wasn't able to go out and see new projects, a lot of colleagues and professionals reached out to me for consulting. They just asked, okay, so how do you do this? If you cannot be there, so maybe you can show us and explain to us how we can do this. And this is really how consulting started to show up in my life. And I didn't realize at the time that you can actually have that as a profession. But over time, I've learned more and more about consulting, and that really was a pivotal moment that started to allow me to look at it as a profession, where, just to kind of put things in the right order, I actually started to coach other people that suffered, through life-changing events. After my accident, I had to make a difficult decision. What I just shared with my ankle that never healed, I actually chose to have it amputated by choice and became an amputee, not defined by my amputation. I don't call myself an amputee. My name is Erez, and I have a prosthetic leg. It's just what we have. It's not an identity. But during those times, I've started to really coach other people, and that's when my trajectory of profession started to shift.
Yeah, sometimes like these challenges, you never know. It leads you to something that you never thought about. Look at you now, and that's we have to be thankful for it no matter what. But you being very strong for that and choosing the amputation is not easy. Of course, it wasn't an easy decision, I'm sure.
Yeah. But just as you said, this is what I do believe, and I see it across the board with almost everybody that I have encountered that went through a very difficult period in their life. When you come into that situation with a more open-minded, because when you're in your trauma and when you're just dealing with it, it's very difficult. You can't see much, but the ability to look a little bit further down the road and dig a little bit deeper into the opportunities, that's where something.
And of course, you're working with people that have went through maybe not exactly what you went through, but something similar, and you can relate to that. And that's what's important, because they need someone that can relate to that, and that's how you'll be able to help them more and get them to where they want to be as well. So that's very important too.
That's a good point. I always say and share with my clients that they cannot BS me about anything, because I've seen it all. I've been there: personal, marriage, fatherhood, business. I always went bankrupt almost a couple of times in my business, and built multiple businesses in different verticals. So the ability to see a bigger picture, I think, helped me to be, a better consultant and a better coach. And relate to people from a real human place. It's not necessarily always about strategies and techniques and, the golden formula everybody is about. It's really about the person as a whole, and what is the ripple effect of areas of life that we don't have, good grasp over, be that health, well-being, our mindset, our businesses, our relationships, our communication skills. They all.
Of course, just like myself, I went through a journey where I've lived in 3 different continents, 3 different educational systems, US, Canadian, and British. It's like, it was tough on me. I've been in like 10 different schools in my whole life, and that's crazy. Like, if I tell that to anybody, like, what? I was always a new kid, But at the end, I also built myself as an athlete, played soccer, played basketball, became popular, but, when I look back, it was a blessing, because I can relate to others now. If someone is British, I have something that we can talk about, and whether it's from the States or Canada, whatever, and it's all a life's journey that, it's written for you, for you to get to something that you're going to be successful in. So definitely. So how did these experiences change your perspective on life, family, and fatherhood?
A complete, turnaround of priorities. Because, I think for many people, and probably for, your audience, intellectually we understand a lot. Especially today, and people that are listening to this particular podcast are more curious about, how they can integrate in their personal lives and their businesses some other areas that can support them through, well-being and other things. But at the end of the day, for me, the realization was that it is all about gaining clarity on what it is that you want. And it's not this, general big idea of what do I want to be when I grow up. It's really getting more granular about what a good life looks like for you. And a good life is a combination of things that sometimes we don't stop to actually understand what those components are. We keep them at a very high level, and then life is just life. It's busy, right? I mean, things happen and we react and interact, and we never stop thinking about what it is. For me, the biggest gift was those pauses where I had a lot of time. I was in a hospital bed for months, and I was, unable to move for many years, and had all these circumstances in my life that forced me to stop. But that pause allowed me to really have a more of an introspective journey and start and understand more what is important and start to design my life around it. I have a very strong approach that I work with my clients around life by design. And this all begins with clarity of understanding what it is and why it is we want to do certain things, not how we do them, but why we want to do them, and then develop around that the entire process.
Yeah, like they always say, like, what's your why? And then from your why, that's how you do it around it, you develop it around it. And it totally makes sense. And so you've developed a methodology called Victory Path 360. Can you explain what it is and how it helps people navigate life's challenges?
Yeah, Victory Path 360 was developed for myself first, of course, because every time that I hit this big challenge, I knew that there were some missing components that could help me overcome the process and really learn from it faster. And looking at my different situations in life, was always very curious to learn from every event, because my recovery and my ability to transform and grow became more and more powerful and faster over time. So what I have done over the last 7 years was to start and really deconstruct that process. And in order to deal with my own life and challenges, I've studied, with tons of amazing teachers and researchers and doctors and professionals in many fields, from physiology to psychology to the human psyche to decision making to habit formation to why we do what we do, to really understand us as a human being on this planet. And all of it at the beginning was completely selfish. Mohammed, was all for me. It was all about how can I learn, how can I become better, how can I overcome.
You have to. It has to. It has to be. You have to be selfish so you can build yourself. You have to do that. Definitely.
And I think that's part of the big gift, that people get into that place of really difficult challenges. When you understand that now the process is for you to figure out, then you can now reach to specific, knowledge, specific experience, specific people, specific bodies of thought to understand how to do it. Victory Path 360 started to really become a system of living when I recovered from my third near-death experience, which was a full-on heart attack 7 years ago now. And that heart attack was the hardest one of them all, because I can deal with broken bones, I can deal with amputated limbs, I can deal with pain. Those things I'm pretty strong at. But that heart attack really stripped me from everything I've had. It was the most difficult experience there.
Yeah.
What it provided me with was really the ability to use everything that I have learned to recover, not just quicker afterwards, but to probably pursue the biggest transformation for myself on a professional and personal level. And this is when I really started to understand the power of Victory Path 360, which at the core of it, it's a very holistic approach to life and business, because I don't see life just as the pursuit of health and wellness, for example, detached from our businesses and our financial success versus our, relationships and our, households, spouses, children, whatever it is. They're all connected. And sometimes I used to find a separation of these areas. You focus only on health and wellness, you focus only on your business, but they're all connected in a very powerful way. And Victory Path 360 takes into account this entire ecosystem and allows you to learn where you are in each one. I have specific assessments and tools that I use, and then we start to prioritize what are the needle movers that actually bring results, not just understanding and some new knowledge, but actually what moves the needle in those areas. And when you start to work the system, that's where transformation happens across the board.
It's like a formula, right? Like you need all the elements together in order for you to get the results that you want, right? So it's not just like from one and then that's it, and then no, it has to all connect together so that you get the results that you're desiring. Correct?
Yeah, and you know this from your clients in the health and wellness side of things. When somebody wants to go through let's say a physical transformation, they have to really take into account all the elements, from the exercise to the nutrition to their sleep to their stress management, to their mindset, to their belief systems, their identity. All of those things have to be accounted for. And I've learned all these elements from, again, specific parts, but now put them together as a holistic system that once you learn the process, you can deploy and use it in every area of your life, with specific focus on particular areas a little bit more than others, but the process is replicable.
It sounds amazing, to be honest. So what's one practical strategy from Victory Path 360 that busy desks can use to build resilience in their daily lives?
Great question. I think the entry point is really to understand where you are right now, because we have to have a certain benchmark to understand, because we talk about resilience, it's almost like a hype type of phrase these days. Resilience, people want to be resilient, but what does it mean? For me, resiliency, it's a skill set. It's not something you're born with. It's not something you either have or you don't have. It's really a very focused and aware process that we go through. But in order to know what to do, we need to know where we are right now. So I have a very specific assessment called the resilience assessment. And what it does, it provides people to see in 4 major categories of their life where they're at right now. It's a snapshot of where they are now. It doesn't mean that the results that they get, this is it, this is who they are. It's the results of where they are right now. And it takes into account elements of your health and wellness, takes elements of your relationships, takes elements of your business and leadership, where leadership is leadership with ourselves and leadership with others. And this is actually something we talked about, and I'll be happy to provide it as a free gift for your listeners. I'm sure in the show notes they can see a link there and they can take the assessment. The assessment is not just giving you a score, and it's an eye-opener sometimes because we think we're doing very well in specific areas, but when they all are in front of you, can see a different picture. But it also has some recommendations that comes with it. And then after that, if people are interested, there's always a deeper dive to learn more about the process and some programs and things that they can participate in.
Oh, that's amazing. So it becomes basically like a guideline on how for them to start. And of course, like everyone has to start with where they're at. Like for example, when I talk to clients of myself for their fitness or their nutrition, like, where are you right now? And then you start building those good habits later on by time. So it sounds like something similar to that. Now, how can someone apply this methodology to both their personal and professional lives?
So this is a skill set that once you start to interact with this process, and this is why, we're not going to dive into the how-tos today, but I'll give people a little bit of an overview of what does it take to implement these things, because we can learn a lot. And these days we're all exposed to good podcasts and YouTube, and you can get knowledge from ChatGPT and everything. So knowledge is not our problem. We can learn until we're blue in the face, and at the end of the day it's easier to sit and consume versus take what you need to do and actually do it, right? It's like going to the gym, right? Well, what's the best advice to people that want to change their health? Just start and exercise,
Exactly, yeah.
Cut the junk food and do these changes that actually make a difference. So I think when we are speaking about the subject of resilience, the main point of how it's implemented in your personal and professional life is really understanding that the doing and the tracking of what it is that you do in order to measure the results is fundamental to change. Because if you're just trying haphazard to change a little bit here, change a little bit there, jump from one thing to the next, there's no consistency, there's not even an environment that keeps you accountable to what you do, then you're an amateur, right? Sure. And you're not going to see any serious results. A transformation, definitely not. So I think when you shift the way that you think about how you show up and what it is you need in order to show up, sometimes that's the extra help, right? Like a coach like yourself or a program that is very structured in a way that fits within your lifestyle but is doable. That's where things start to change. And that's the biggest gift, I think, that we, both yourself and people like myself, we give others, because sometimes it's very difficult to do it on your own. You don't see your own blind spots, and sometimes our bad habits have such a powerful control over everything that we do that to break them, we need a little bit of more horsepower.
Of course. Yeah, and there's something else that I find very interesting as well, that when I speak to my clients, for example, I can give you a program, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm joining your program because I need to see where you're at now, and then we're going to build something around you, okay? Because you might not want a six-pack, okay, which is totally fine. Nobody, if you don't have a six-pack, it doesn't mean that you're not fit, right? So maybe fitness for you is just a walk, or just taking your dog for a walk, for example, and that's enough for you. So it's all about you, and then creating that within your environment and getting you the results that you want or your goals to fulfill your life, So yeah, definitely with you with that. As a dad, how do you balance building resilience with the demands of family life?
I find that's really the biggest test, right? This is where if we can convey what we learn and hopefully impart that to our children. I have 2 daughters. I have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old, and I can see them, struggle with their own issues around, their life at a young age. And for me, it's really using real life examples that they're dealing with as lessons for building resilience and for understanding that life is not easy. Suffering is not optional. It's part of how we interact in this lifetime, but pain is optional. This is something that we can actually control in a more directed way of how we show up and understand ourselves and what we encountered. And that's where I think for me as a father, it's a big part of how I interact with my children, with my family, with myself, my spouse. So it's a constant learning all the time.
That's true. Like I have two boys, 10 and 7. They're athletes. They play basketball, soccer, they're swimmers, and they get frustrated a lot, when certain things have happened in their sports, and then it's like, it's something similar. Like our communication is sports, so your communication is probably something a little different, right? So that's how I try to work with them with mental toughness. It's something that I'm teaching them at a young age. And for the elder one, it's kind of helping him out. And the younger one is still learning, but it's the same thing, like, why couldn't I do this? Why couldn't I do that? I'm like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all a learning process. Enjoy the learning process. You haven't been playing for 20 years or 30 years, you've been, for you, 3 years, you 2 years or a year. So just relax, So yeah, definitely. It's at the end of the day, it's a journey, and you have to enjoy that journey, right?
Yeah. And I think for every person, you need to find a vehicle that will test you, right? So it could be sports, like your children. It could be, school. It could be a relationship. It could be work. But I believe we choose a vehicle that will test us and will push us to learn more and grow more. And when you learn to enjoy the journey, I couldn't agree more. That's where you find joy versus always, suffering and struggle and just
100%. So what's one piece of advice would you give to dads who feel overwhelmed by life's challenges?
This is a heavy loaded question, right? I wish there was one thing that, was like a magic pill that could solve it. From my personal experience, overwhelm and anxiousness and anxiety come when we are disconnected. It appears when we are confronted with a certain situation in our life that we don't have the right tools, or we haven't looked at the big picture in a way that can really allow us to work with what we are faced with. Those are symptoms at the end of the day. And when they arise, I think the best advice is there is something deeper going on. It's not about resolving it immediately. And because, there are many practices that I teach and I use daily. Meditation, breathing, journaling, walking in nature, physical activity. Those are kind of the basics. We all know that, I should do a little bit this and that. But these are the tools that are being utilized when you understand the situation requires for you to show up in a different way. So I can say this, when you do feel overwhelmed, when you do feel anxious, there is something there that is calling you to deal with it. It's not necessarily the situation. The situation may have been the trigger to how you feel. But if there's a pattern there and, you have the same reaction and it repeats itself maybe every week or every day or every month because somebody said something or something happened to you or you encountered something, there is something underneath that is calling for your attention. So my best advice is to see it from a broader view and maybe start with the assessment, the resilience assessment, and look at it and say, oh my God, I thought in this area I'm kind of stronger, but maybe I'm not, and start there.
Great. So how has prioritizing resilience impacted your effectiveness as a dad and a professional?
It's my way of life. So it changed everything for me because I'm in a stage in my life that it doesn't matter what happens or what I'm confronted with or what we're seeing right now in our world, with the US administration and the shifts in the economy and the world. For me, what really helped me a lot was and I use the analogy of a storm. It's like, when you have a huge storm going on and you can be like the eye of the storm. You can be calm, like a peaceful warrior, like a Zen monk among this, huge energy that is coming at you. And it's almost like in the Matrix movie, when Neo is being shot at the end, and he can dodge the bullets and everything slows down. That's the most powerful place to be in when you are embodying resilience. And in my life, I was privileged to really learn how to embody that and live it today. So the capacity it gave me is to really to be able to handle almost any situation with grace and with self-compassion and with self-love that allows me to participate in the process versus allowing the process to take over and do its own thing.
That's amazing. You've built an incredible career as a resilience expert and speaker. You've already shared a lot already about your Victory Path 360, and we're gonna share the website. You're gonna share it with me. We're gonna add it in the notes so our listeners can contact you. Any contact information we'll provide as well, and they will take the resilience assessment. We'll provide that link to them as well, so it will be in the show notes, it'll be in the description, and they can just contact you directly. Okay, so what's your vision for the future of resilience coaching? How do you hope your work will impact others?
So even now, I'm now started a program with the organizations and larger companies. My real vision is the ripple effect of these trainings. I have a very particular training course that I provide companies for their employees, for their mid-management, and for their C-suite, for founders and for business owners. And my intention has always been to reach the people that have a ripple effect impact on their organization, their employees, and their customers, and teach them how to really embody resilience and now bring it into their organizations so they can share that message and that knowledge further on. And I don't think there is a stronger skill set that needs to be developed these days for everyone, and especially with youth. I'm working with youth as well, younger emerging leaders and a younger generation, anywhere from 16, 17 to their mid-20s, that I find them to be incredibly hungry for this kind of knowledge, and they need it sometimes more than we do.
That's true. That's right. I totally agree. I'm glad you're actually approaching the youth as well, because it really needs it. That's a good market. So how do you hope your journey influences your kids' approach to resilience and overcoming challenges? You've talked about your two daughters, about some challenges, but how can you add a little bit more on that?
At the end of the day, it's really to see how they deal with adversity and challenges in their life. So every time another challenge shows up, which it's just the nature of things, if they can handle it better, if they have the right tools to manage it in a way that it doesn't affect them in a negative way, that's where the results are shown. And for me, I'm just trying to provide them with as much experience, knowledge, and love that will help them on their journey.
Amazing. So what legacy do you hope to leave through your work in resilience and coaching?
Really to understand that resilience is not something to aspire to. It's not a nice to have. It's not a trait that you're defined by. It is a life skill that we all develop anyways. So you might as well develop it at the highest level, and you can amplify the results of it in your life. So for me, the message is always to try and understand that on this journey, you are here to impact others. You have a specific gift that you're here to share. Everybody has it in a different way. It's wrapped in different wrappings. But at the end of the day, it is something that once you start to work on it for yourself, you're now able to give it as a gift for others. So for me, it's all about, giving it to others who can proceed and give it to others and have a ripple effect of it.
Thank you, Erez, for sharing your powerful journey with us today. Your story demonstrates how resilience can transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you. From near-death experiences to building a thriving career in resilience coaching, you're proving that strength comes within. If Erez can survive 3 near-death experiences and turn them into a mission to help others build resilience, imagine what you can achieve. His journey shows us that true strength comes from transforming challenges into opportunities. Whether you're a dad navigating life's challenges, an entrepreneur facing setbacks, or someone looking to build resilience, taking that first step is crucial. Ready to start your own transformation story? Book a call with me today and let's create a fitness strategy that builds both physical and mental resilience. Remember, as Erez shows us, real resilience lies in turning obstacles into opportunities. Let's make it happen. Before I wrap up, I want to remind you that Erez offers a resilience assessment on his website along with his Victory Path 360 methodology. If you're interested in learning more, visit the website or check out the show notes for links. And thanks to BioSteel for powering this podcast. When you're working on building resilience like Erez, staying hydrated And thanks to Biosur for powering this podcast. When you're working on building resilience like Erez, staying hydrated and energized is key, especially for busy dads. Use code MNYY1417 for up to 25% off your next order. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a dad who might need to hear this message of resilience and strength. Until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and keep hustling.